Schumacher latest, reporter reveals ups and downs of 30-year friendship with F1 legend. Motorsport reporter Ralph Bach met a 19-year-old Schumacher before he got his Formula One break, and the pair became good friends over the course of the German's sparkling career. In 1988, the sport bildman was a fledgling editor at German car news magazine Auto Zeitung when he met the young Michael Schumacher, and even then he spotted a glimmer of huge potential in his new friend. Recalling his earliest memories of Schumacher for TZ.de, Mr. Bach wrote, "In the beginning was the fire, it was burning in his eyes. It wasn't just people watching Schumacher who could see the talent, the man himself had utter confidence in his own ability and future." Bach added, "Even then his gaze narrowed when talking about motorsport, and he knew of his special skills. Already at that time Schumi believed in his abilities." Mr. Bach described the fierceness of Schumacher's first serious rival, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He said, "I accompanied the two to Formula 3 races or to the tests in the Mercedes Junior team. We hung out with Corinna, later Mrs. Schumacher, but back then she was still with Frentzen. Sometimes we went to a bar where Schumi danced to Marianne Rosenberg songs while I asked in vain for Stone's songs to be played. We ate pizza at the Junkersdorf Birkenhof, sometimes we celebrated our birthday, sometimes we hung out on the kart track in Kirpen. We philosophized what it would be like if Michael and Heinz would drive in Formula One. Schumi was already very self-confident at the time. Except for Senna, everyone should watch out," he said. Bach described how suddenly everything changed after Michael made his Formula One debut at the Belgium Grand Prix in 1991, saying the fast pace did not give the young man any time to reflect. They fell out over a number of crashes, including the controversial Hill 1994 smash and Villeneuve 1997 collision, which they disagreed on, with Michael at one stage refusing to allow any criticism and blasting, "Either you are for me or against me." But the pair remained close despite their differences of opinion, and, while other news outlets were reporting Schumacher was ready to retire after being seriously injured when his car slammed into a Silverstone tire wall at almost 200 km/h, Bach said he got an inside scoop from his friend about how engineers were coming up with a secret plan to keep Schumacher racing. Bach said Schumacher told him Ferrari wanted to build a car with a hand throttle and brake on the steering wheel to help him drive with a broken shin. Other papers said Schumacher was ready to quit, but Bach knew otherwise. He wrote, Ferrari boss Jean Todt was stunned because secret internals of Ferrari were leaked to the outside. He even called me at home and wanted to know who had told me about it. Only he, Ross Brawn, chief mechanic Nigel Stepney and Michael knew about the idea. Todd asked if Brawn or Stepney had told Bach about the idea, but trusted Schumacher so much he did not think to ask if it could have been Michael, wrote Bach. Next news: Michael Schumacher health latest, what happened, when was skiing crash? Michael Schumacher made his name as a racing driver who competed in Formula One. But when was his skiing crash and what happened? Not much is known about the current status of Mr. Schumacher's health, as his family has kept tight-lipped and focus on the care he now needs instead. But this week the prefect of the Pontifical House of the Holy See and personal secretary of Benedict XVI, Georg Gansen, has spoken to German magazine Bund about Schumi's condition. The German archbishop, who was previously a ski instructor, revealed he paid the record-breaking racing driver a visit. He said, "I sat in front of him, I touched him with both hands, and I looked at him." His face, as we all know, is the typical face of Michael Schumacher, only that it has become a little more puffy. He feels that around him there are people who love him, who care about him and, thank God, keep the curious public away. A sick person needs discretion and understanding. Last year, Corinna said, the decision to protect his privacy from the public has been taken in Michael's interest. We have made it very clear that something serious has happened. What happened? When was skiing crash? While skiing at the Mrable Resort in the French Alps on December 29, 2013, Mr. Schumacher suffered a severe head injury after he hit his head on a rock. He was put into a medically induced coma and underwent 2 life-saving operations at Grenoble Hospital. He was taken out from the coma in April 2014 and moved to a hospital in Lausanne, Switzerland, before being brought home a few months later in September 2014. There were no updates about his health until April 2015, when it was revealed Mr. Schumacher was showing moments of consciousness and awakening. 3 months later, a statement was then released saying he was no longer in a coma. Next news: Michael Schumacher health update. Where is Michael Schumacher? Will he ever get better? Michael Schumacher was statistically the greatest racing driver Formula One had ever seen. But the legend suffered a traumatic head injury 5 years ago, so where is Michael Schumacher now and will he ever get better? A German archbishop has given key insights into the physical condition of Formula One legend Michael Schumacher. Archbishop Georg Gansen apparently visited Schumacher in 2016 and has now encountered how the meeting went down. He said, "I didn't want to pray on the spot with him because I could not know if he would want that. But one senses that he perceives encounters and has an inner dialogue with himself. You can feel that the proximity of his family is important to him. And, according to Mail Online, Mr. Schumacher is not bedridden or existing on tubes anymore. However, it is believed the sportsman is receiving extensive nursing and therapy care." Michael Schumacher suffered a severe head injury and was left in a coma 5 years ago. The beloved Formula One legend was skiing off-piste with his son at the Mrable ski resort in France in December 2013 when the accident occurred. Although an experienced skier, Schumacher fell at a relatively low speed and hit his head on a rock. He was wearing a helmet, but the former Ferrari driver had a GoPro mounted on the side of his head that hit the rock. He was rushed to the hospital and put into a medically induced coma for 6 months until June 14, 2014. Schumacher then left the hospital for further rehabilitation at the University of Lausanne, before being relocated to his home on September 9, 2014. He is said to have been lucky to survive and is thought to be unable to walk or stand. During the 2018 Formula One season, Sabine Kim, the manager of Schumacher, shared a small insight to his family's feelings. She said, "What can be said is that the family really appreciates the empathy of the fans. The people really do see and understand his health situation is not to be shared in the public eye." Where is Michael Schumacher now? Michael Schumacher has continued to receive medical treatment and rehabilitation privately since leaving the Lausanne hospital, but where is not completely clear. Official updates from Schumacher's family have been incredibly scarce in the months and years following the incident, although it is though Schumacher remains in his Switzerland home. However, reports earlier this month claimed he could have been taken to the U.S. to receive specialist treatment near Texas, where Schumacher owns a ranch. According to the reports, Texas-based brain specialist Dr. Mark Meeks could offer a breakthrough. Dr. Meeks said, "We have extensive experience with trauma patients. There is probably no clinic in Europe that handles as many cases as we do." And earlier this year, it was claimed wife Corinna, who Schumacher married in 1995, was reported to have bought a £27 million mansion in Andratx, Mallorca, where Michael would be moved to. Claudia Roarch, mayor of Andratx, Mallorca, told Swiss news magazine Lilleaster the German Formula One driver would be moving to the area. She said, "I can officially confirm Michael Schumacher is going to move into our municipality and that everything is being prepared to welcome him." But the family denied the rumor, saying, "The Schumacher family does not plan to move to Mallorca." Reported healthcare figures suggest Schumacher's home care bills have now passed £20 million. Will he ever get better? From what we know of his injuries, Michael Schumacher cannot walk or talk, but sources have claimed he can show emotions. French magazine Paris Match has reportedly spoken to close relatives of the motor star. The magazine claimed one relative said, "When you put him in his wheelchair facing the beautiful panorama of the mountains overlooking the lake, Michael sometimes cries." In 2017, German magazine Bund claimed the 47-year-old racing legend could walk again. But Schumacher's lawyer Felix Dam took the magazine to court and outlined the injuries Schumacher had sustained. Mr. Dam said he cannot walk, adding Schumacher is unable to stand even with the assistance of therapists. Bunt magazine had to pay Michael Schumacher negation $50,000. And recently, Michael Schumacher's close friend Jean Todt opened up about the tough times he had faced since the Formula One star's accident. Mr. Todt, who worked alongside the racing ace throughout the bulk of his glittering career, is one of the few people that is allowed to visit the F1 driver at his home following the accident. He said, "I simply say it is private. I see Michael, I love Michael. I see his family. I wish the situation would be different." Mr. Todt also referred to Michael as one of his darlings when pointing to a photo of his family in an interview with The Times. He told the paper, "That's my three darlings. Michael, Michelle and my son. I think this picture was when I won the French award called Légion d'honneur. They came to the celebration. They all love each other, which is something that is also special to me." Will Michael Schumacher ever go out in public again? From the small amount of information given by Schumacher's family up until now, it does not seem likely Michael will be seen out in public anytime soon. but a source has said Corinna and the children hope to this day that a medical miracle happens. A family friend has also revealed how his toned physique may be aiding him and said the F1 legend is doing well in the circumstances. What does Michael Schumacher's son say about his dad? Michael Schumacher's son, Mick, 19, recently told of the times his dad would take him to track in Kerpen, near Cologne, and how Michael inspired him to be a professional racer. Speaking of a track in Kerpen in an RTL documentary titled Schumacher: The Next Generation, he said, "We went there to practice driving. Even on days when the track was closed in Kerpen, we went there and were allowed to race our laps there. All the refining we did to be faster was also a lot. That was always the best time." Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to share and subscribe to your channel to get the latest sports news around the world. Wished health and success. Goodbye.